Okay, today is the 11th of September and we are on the third night of this Majjhima Nikāya talks. And we come to Sutta number 5, Anangana Sutta, without blemishes. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There the Venerable Sariputta addressed the monks thus, "Friends, monks." "Friend," they replied. The Venerable Sariputta said, "Friends, there are these 4 kinds of persons found existing in the world. What for? Here some person with a blemish does not understand it as it really is thus. I have a blemish in myself." A blemish is a fault. Huh? Here some person with a blemish understands it as it actually is thus. I have a blemish in myself. Here some person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is thus. I have no blemish in myself. Here some person with no blemish understands as it actually is thus. I have no blemish in myself. Herein the person with a blemish who does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself, is called the inferior of these 2 persons with a blemish. Herein the person with a blemish who understands it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself, is called the superior of these 2 persons with a blemish. Herein the person with no blemish who does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have no blemish, is called the inferior of these 2 persons with no blemish. Herein the person with no blemish who understands it as it actually is thus, I have no blemish, is called the superior of these 2 persons with no blemish. And this was said, the Venerable Mahamoggallana asked the Venerable Sariputta, "Friend Sariputta, what is the cause and reason why of these 2 persons with a blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called the superior man? What is the cause and reason why of these 2 persons with no blemish, one is called the inferior person and one is called the superior person?" Venerable Sariputta said, "Herein, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will not arouse zeal, make effort, or instigate energy to abandon that blemish, and that he will die with lust, hatred, and delusion, with a blemish, with mind defiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or a smithy covered with dirt and stains, and the owners neither used it nor had it cleaned, but put it away in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get more defiled and stained later on?" Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with a blemish does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind defiled. When a person with a blemish understands it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will arouse zeal, make effort, and instigate energy to abandon that blemish, and that he will die without lust, hatred, and delusion, without a blemish, with mind undefiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or a smithy covered with dirt and stains, and the owners had it cleaned and did not put it in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get cleaner and brighter later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with a blemish understands it as it actually is thus, I have a blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind undefiled. Herein, when a person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have no blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will give attention to the sign of the beautiful, that by his doing so, lust will infect his mind, and that he will die with lust, hatred, and delusion, with a blemish, with mind defiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or smithy, clean and bright, and the owners neither used it nor had it cleaned and put it in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get more defiled and more stained later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with no blemish does not understand it as it actually is thus, I have no blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind defiled. Herein, when a person with no blemish understands it as it actually is thus, I have no blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will not give attention to the sign of the beautiful, that by his not doing so, lust will not infect his mind, and that he will die without lust, hatred, and delusion, without blemish, with mind undefiled. Suppose a bronze dish were brought from a shop or smithy, clean and bright, and the owners used it and had it cleaned and did not put it in a dusty corner. Would the bronze dish thus get cleaner and brighter later on? Yes, friend. So too, friend, when a person with no blemish understands it as it actually is thus, I have no blemish in myself, it can be expected that he will die with mind undefiled. This is the cause and reason why of these two persons with a blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called the superior man. This is the cause and reason why of these two persons with no blemish, one is called the inferior man and one is called the superior man. Let's stop here for a moment. So here Venerable Sariputta explains that these two persons with a fault, one knows that he has a fault, the other one does not know that he has a fault, a mauping, a weakness. So the one who does not know, then he will not make an effort to improve, to get rid of that blemish, that fault. Whereas the other person, he knows that he has a blemish, he has a fault, then it can be expected that he will put forth energy to get rid of that fault and improve. And then for the other two persons with no blemish, the one who does not know that he has no blemish, does not understand. So at that time he may have no blemish, but because he doesn't know, so he doesn't know how to preserve his purity, and does not know how to preserve his faultlessness, then he will get himself dirtied by taking delight in beautiful things, enjoyable things and all that. Then greed, hatred and delusion, or lust, hatred and delusion will affect his mind, so that he will later on he will have blemishes. Whereas the other person with no blemish, he knows that he is pure, then he makes effort to preserve that purity. So that's why he's superior. Venerable Sariputta said, blemish is said friend. But what is this word blemish a term for? Blemish, friend, is a term for the spheres of evil, unwholesome wishes. That means unwholesome desires. It is possible that a monk here might wish, if I commit an offense, let the monks not know that I have committed an offense. And it is possible that the monks come to know that monk has committed an offense. So he is angry and bitter thus. The monks know I have committed an offense. The anger and bitterness are both a blemish. It is possible that a monk here might wish, I have committed an offense. The monks should admonish me in private, not in the midst of the Sangha. And it is possible that the monks admonish that monk in the midst of the Sangha, not in private. So he is angry and bitter thus. The monks admonish me in the midst of the Sangha, not in private. The anger and bitterness are both a blemish. It is possible that a monk here might wish, I have committed an offense. A person who is my equal should admonish me, not a person who is not my equal. And it is possible that a person not his equal admonishes him, not a person his equal. So he is angry and bitter thus. A person not my equal admonishes me, not a person my equal. The anger and bitterness are both a blemish. It is possible that a monk here might wish, or that the teacher might teach the Dhamma to the monks by asking a series of questions of me, not of some other monk. And it is possible that the teacher teaches the Dhamma to the monks by asking a series of questions to some other monk, not of that monk. So he is angry and bitter thus. The teacher teaches the Dhamma to the monks by asking a series of questions of some other monk, not of me. The anger and bitterness are both a blemish. It is possible that a monk here might wish, or that the monks might enter the village for alms, putting me in the forefront, not some other monk. And it is possible that the monks enter the village for alms, putting some other monk in the forefront, not that monk. So he is angry and bitter thus. The monks enter the village for alms, putting some other monk in the forefront, not me. The anger and bitterness are both a blemish. It is possible that a monk here might wish, oh, that I might get the best seat, the best water, the best alms food in the refectory, the dining hall, not some other monk. And it is possible that some other monk gets the best seat. It is possible that a monk here might wish, "Oh, that I might give the blessing in the refectory after the meal," not some other monk. And it is possible that some other monk gives the blessing. It is possible that a monk here might wish, "Oh, that I might teach the Dhamma to the monks, that I might teach the Dhamma to the nuns, men lay followers, women lay followers, visiting the monastery, so not some other monk." And it is possible that some other monk teaches the Dhamma. It is possible that a monk here might wish, "Oh, that the monks, the nuns, the men lay followers, the women lay followers might honor, respect, revere and venerate me, not some other monk." And it is possible that they honor some other monk. It is possible that a monk here might wish, "Oh, that I might be the one to get a superior robe, superior alms food, superior resting place, superior medicinal requisites, not some other monk." And it is possible that some other monk is the one to get superior medicinal requisites, not that monk. So he is angry and bitter thus. Another monk is the one to get superior medicinal requisites, not me. The anger and the bitterness are both a blemish. Blemish, friend, is a term for the spheres of these evil, unwholesome wishes. If the spheres of these evil, unwholesome wishes are seen and heard to be unabandoned in any monk, then for all he may be a forest dweller, a frequenter of remote abodes, an alms food eater, a house-to-house seeker, a refuse rag wearer, a wearer of rough robes, still his fellows in the holy life do not honor, respect, revere and venerate him. Why is that? Because the spheres of these evil unwholesome wishes are seen and heard to be unabandoned in that venerable one. Suppose a metal bowl were brought from a shop or a smithy, clean and bright, and the owners put the carcass of a snake or a dog or a human being in it, and covering it with another bowl went to the market. Then people seeing it said, "What is that you are carrying about like a treasure?" Then raising the lid and uncovering it, they looked in, and as soon as they saw, they were inspired with such loathing, repugnance and disgust, that even those who were hungry would not want to eat, not to speak of those who were full. So too, if the spheres of these evil, unwholesome wishes are seen and heard to be unabandoned in any monk, then for all he may be a forest dweller, etc., then these fellows in the holy life do not honor, respect, revere and venerate him. If the spheres of these evil, unwholesome wishes are seen and heard to be abandoned in any monk, then for all he may be a village dweller, an acceptor of invitations, a wearer of robes given him by householders, yet his fellows in the holy life honor, respect, revere and venerate him. Why is that? Because the spheres of these evil, unwholesome wishes are seen and heard to be abandoned in that venerable one. Suppose a metal bowl were brought from a shop or a smithy, clean and bright, and the owners put clean boiled rice and various soups and sauces into it, and covering it with another bowl went back to the marketplace. Then people seeing it said, "What is that you are carrying about like a treasure?" Then raising the lid and uncovering it, they looked in, and as soon as they saw, they were inspired with such liking, appetite and relish, that even those who were full would want to eat, not to speak of those who were hungry. So too, friend, if the spheres of these evil, unwholesome wishes are seen and heard to be abandoned in any monk, then for all he may be a village dweller, etc., his fellows in the holy life would still honor, respect, revere and venerate him. And this was said, the Venerable Mahamoggallana said to the Venerable Sariputta, "A simile occurs to me, friend Sariputta." Stated, friend Moggallana. On one occasion, friend, I was living at the hill fort at Rajagaha. Then when it was morning, I dressed, and taking my bowl and outer robe, I went into Rajagaha for alms. Now on that occasion, Samiti, the cartwright's son, was planing a fellow, and the Ajivaka Pandu Putta, son of a former cartwright, was standing by. Then this thought arose in the Ajivaka Pandu Putta's mind, "Oh, that this Samiti, the cartwright's son, might plane this bend, this twist, this fault out of the fellow, so that it would be without bends, twists or fault, and come to consist purely of hardwood." And just as this thought came to pass in his mind, so did Samiti, the cartwright's son, plane that bend, that twist, that fault out of the fellow. Then the Ajivaka Panduputta, son of a former Cartwright, was glad, and he voiced his gladness thus. He plains just as if he knew my heart with his heart. So too, friend, there are persons who are faithless and have gone forth from the home life into homelessness, now not out of faith, but seeking a livelihood, who are fraudulent, deceitful, treacherous, haughty, hollow, personally vain, rough-tongued, loose-spoken, unguarded in their sense faculties, immoderate in eating, undevoted to wakefulness, unconcerned with recluseship, not greatly respectful of training, luxurious, careless, leaders in backsliding, neglectful of seclusion, lazy, wanting in energy, unmindful, not fully aware, unconcentrated, with straying minds, devoid of wisdom, drivellers. The Venerable Sariputta, with his discourse on the Dhamma, plains out their faults just as if he knew my heart with his heart. But there are clansmen who have gone forth out of faith from the home life into homelessness, who are not fraudulent, deceitful, treacherous, haughty, hollow, personally vain, rough-tongued or loose-spoken, who are guarded in their sense faculties, moderate in eating, devoted to wakefulness, concerned with recluseship, greatly respectful of training, not luxurious or careless, who are keen to avoid backsliding, leaders in seclusion, energetic, resolute, established in mindfulness, fully aware, concentrated, with unified minds, possessing wisdom, not drivellers. These, on hearing the Venerable Sariputta's discourse on the Dhamma, drink it in and eat it, as it were, by word and thought. Good indeed it is that he makes his fellows in the holy life emerge from the unwholesome and establish themselves in the wholesome, just as a woman or a man, young, youthful, fond of adornments, with head bathed, having received a garland of lotuses, jasmine or roses, would take it with both hands and place it on the head. So too there are clansmen who have gone forth out of faith, not drivellers. These, on hearing the Venerable Sariputta's discourse on the Dhamma, drink it in and eat it, as it were, by word and thought. Good indeed it is that he makes his fellows in the holy life emerge from the unwholesome and establish themselves in the wholesome. Thus it was that these two great beings rejoiced in each other's good words. It's the end of the sutta. So the Venerable Sariputta says that blemish is a term for evil, unwholesome wishes or desires, and it's faults. And then if these faults or blemishes are not abandoned in a monk, he still has a lot of faults, and he may be a very ascetic monk who stays in the deep forest and all that, but still the other monks would not respect him because they can see all his faults. On the other hand, if you have a monk who has abandoned these blemishes, these faults in him, then even if he doesn't stay in the forest and doesn't practice ascetic practices, that the other monks respect him. Why? Because they see that he has got rid of a lot of faults. Then it's a description here on paragraph 32, page 113. There's paragraph 32, the first part is about fraud monks, and at the bottom is the true monks. In some other suttas, the Buddha mentions these are the fraud monks. The characteristics of a fraud monk is one who does not have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. He goes forth from the home life into homelessness just to seek livelihood, cari makan, and then they are deceitful, they are haughty, vain, coarse in their speech, unguarded in their sense faculties, immoderate in eating, undevoted to wakefulness. Undevoted to wakefulness means sleep a lot, unconcerned with recluseship, with striving, not respectful of the training, luxurious, careless, neglectful of seclusion, lazy, not concentrated, straying minds, no wisdom. So towards the last part, Venerable Moggallana praised the Venerable Sariputta for giving discourses like this, so that the monks and improve and emerge from the unwholesome and establish themselves in the wholesome. So now all the suttas are spoken by the Buddha. Some of them are by senior monks like the Venerable Sariputta. Now we come to the next sutta, number 6, Akankheyya Sutta. If a monk should wish, thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatta Pindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, Monks, Prabhu Sir, they replied. The Blessed One said, Monks, dwell possessed of virtue, that is moral conduct, possessed of the Patimokkha, restrained with the restraint of the Patimokkha, perfect in conduct and resort, and seeing fear in the slightest fault, trained by undertaking the training precepts. Stop here for a moment. This Patimokkha, I think in Mandarin is Poloti Mucha, and is a set of precepts for the monks. In our Theravada tradition, we have 227 precepts. And in the Mahayana tradition, they have 250 precepts for the monks. The precepts are almost identical, only there's a slight variation. I mean, there's some they put in front, it should be at the back and all that. And also they've added a section on concerning the stupa. You should, when you're near the stupa, you should be more respectful. You should not urinate in the direction of the stupa. You should not shit around the stupa. And you should not carry a corpse under the stupa. The stupa in those days probably was like a elevated structure with the relics at the top, and at the bottom people could pass across, could walk across. So that's why they say you're not supposed to carry a corpse under the stupa and all that. So the Mahayana monks, they have even 23 precepts more than the Theravada, and the precepts are almost identical. But unfortunately nowadays they don't put much emphasis on the precepts. So this Patimokkha is the set of the 200 over precepts. This is the Patimokkha, and this is recited every 2 weeks on the Uposatha day. The lunar calendar, it's the 15th and the 30th day of the lunar calendar. If you don't have 30 days, then it's 29 days. And the Buddha continued, Monks, if a monk should wish, may I be dear and agreeable to my companions in the holy life, respected and esteemed by them. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, not neglect meditation, be possessed of insight, and dwell in empty huts. If a monk should wish, may I be one to obtain robes, alms, food, resting place, and medicinal requisites. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, not neglect meditation, be possessed of insight, and dwell in empty huts. Similarly, if a monk should wish, may the services of those whose robes, alms, food, resting place, and medicinal requisites are used bring them great fruit and benefit. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, when my kinsmen and relatives who have passed away and died remember me with confidence in their minds, may that bring them great fruit and great benefit. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I become a conqueror of discontent and delight, and may discontent and delight not conquer me. May I abide transcending discontent and delight whenever they arise. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I become a conqueror of fear and dread, and may fear and dread not conquer me. May I abide transcending fear and dread whenever they arise. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I become one to obtain at will, without trouble or difficulty, the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind, and provide a pleasant abiding here and now. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I contact with the body and abide in those liberations that are peaceful and immaterial, transcending forms. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I, with the destruction of 3 fetters, become a stream enterer, no longer subject to perdition. bound for deliverance, headed for enlightenment. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I, with the destruction of three fetters and the attenuation of lust, hatred and delusion, become a once returner, Sakadagamin, returning once to this world to make an end of suffering. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I, with the destruction of the five lower fetters, become due to reappear spontaneously in the pure abodes, and there attain final Nibbana, without ever returning from that world. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I wield the various kinds of supernormal power. Having been one, may I become many. Having been many, may I become one. May I appear and vanish. May I go unhindered through a wall, through an enclosure, through a mountain as though through space. May I dive in and out of the earth as though it were water. May I walk on water without sinking as though it were earth. Seated cross-legged, may I travel in space like a bird. With my hand, may I touch and stroke the moon and sun, so powerful and mighty. May I wield bodily mastery even as far as the Brahma world. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I, with the divine ear element, which is purified and surpasses the human, hear both kinds of sounds, the divine and the human, those that are far as well as near. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I understand the minds of other beings, of other persons, having encompassed them with my own mind. May I understand the mind affected by lust as affected by lust, and the mind unaffected by lust as unaffected by lust. May I understand the mind affected by hatred as affected by hatred, and the mind unaffected by hatred as unaffected by hatred. May I understand the mind affected by delusion as affected by delusion, and the mind unaffected by delusion as unaffected by delusion. May I understand a contracted mind as contracted, and a distracted mind as distracted. May I understand an exalted mind as exalted, and an unexalted mind as unexalted. May I understand a surpassed mind as surpassed, and an unsurpassed mind as unsurpassed. May I understand a concentrated mind as concentrated, and an unconcentrated mind as unconcentrated. May I understand a liberated mind as liberated, and an unliberated mind as unliberated. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I recollect my manifold past lives, that is 1 birth, 2 births, 3, 100, 1,000, etc. Thus with the aspects and the particulars, may I recollect my manifold past lives. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I, with the divine eye which is purified and surpasses the human, see beings passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, fair and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate. May I understand how beings pass on according to their actions. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, etc. If a monk should wish, may I, by realizing for myself with direct knowledge, here and now enter upon and abide in the deliverance by mind and the deliverance by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints or asavas. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, not neglect meditation, be possessed of insight, and dwell in empty huts. So it was with reference to this that it was said, monks, dwell possessed of virtue, possessed of the Patimokkha, restrained with the restraint of the Patimokkha, perfect in conduct and resort, seeing fear in the slightest fault, trained by undertaking the training precepts. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So here you see the Buddha says, dwell possessed of moral conduct, possessed of the Patimokkha, uphold the precepts, restrain with the restraint of the precepts, perfect in conduct and resort. Conduct is our bodily conduct. Resort is where we go to. We're not supposed to go to unsuitable resorts for a monk. Not supposed to go to a place where there are prostitutes. Not to go to a place where there's a widow alone. Not to go alone to the nun's quarters. etc. Not to go alone to where a single woman is staying by herself and all that. So this resort. So Buddha always says to see fear in the slightest fault. And then the Buddha says, if the monk should wish to attain all these desirable things that are mentioned here, from the simple things like obtaining the requisites up to psychic powers and liberation, then he should fulfill the precepts, be devoted to serenity of mind, tranquility of mind. That means samatha, practice samatha. Here, not neglect meditation. Meditation in the Buddha's teachings always refers to the jhanas. Be possessed of contemplation, vipassana. Vipassana in the Buddha's teachings refers to contemplation of the four objects, body, feelings, mind and Dhamma, and dwell in secluded places. So that's the way the Buddha expects monks to practice. Keep the precepts, practice samatha meditation, and then practice contemplation. That means study the Dhamma and contemplate, and dwell in secluded places like forest monasteries. Then if whatever a monk wishes to obtain, then he can obtain. Okay, the next sutta is number 7, Vatthupama Sutta, simile of the cloth. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, Monks, noble sir, they replied. The Blessed One said, Monks, suppose a cloth were defiled and stained, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or pink. It would look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is defiled, an unhappy destination may be expected. Monks, suppose a cloth were pure and bright, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or pink. It would look well dyed and pure in color. Why is that? Because of the purity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is undefiled, a happy destination may be expected. But monks, are the imperfections that defile the mind. Covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. These defilements of the mind are called cittasa upakilesa. Kilesa means defilements. Ill will, anger, revenge, contempt, a domineering attitude, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, presumption, conceit, arrogance, vanity, negligence are imperfections that defile the mind. Knowing that covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a monk abandons it. Knowing that ill will is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a monk abandons it. Similarly, for the other imperfections, the monk abandons them. When a monk has known that covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind and has abandoned it, when a monk has known that ill will, etc., is an imperfection that defiles the mind and has abandoned it, he acquires perfect confidence in the Buddha thus. The Blessed One is accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. He acquires perfect confidence in the Dhamma thus. The Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One, visible here and now, immediately effective, inviting inspection, onward leading, to be experienced by the wise for themselves. He acquires perfect confidence in the Sangha thus. The Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is practicing the good way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way. That is, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. When he has given up, expelled, released, abandoned and relinquished the imperfections of the mind in part, he considers thus, I am possessed of perfect confidence in the Buddha, and he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, delight is born in him. In one who is delighted, the body becomes tranquil. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure. In one who feels pleasure, or happiness, the mind becomes concentrated. He considers thus, I am possessed of perfect confidence in the Dhamma, and he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, the mind becomes concentrated. He considers thus, I am possessed of perfect confidence in the Sangha, and he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, the mind becomes concentrated. He considers thus, the imperfections of the mind in part have been given up, expelled, released, abandoned and relinquished by me. And he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, delight is born in him. In one who is delighted, the body becomes tranquil. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure or happiness. In one who feels pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. Monks, if a monk of such virtue, such a state of concentration and such wisdom, eats alms food consisting of choice hill rice along with various sauces and curries, even that will be no obstacle for him. Just as a cloth that is defiled and stained becomes pure and bright with the help of clear water, or just as gold becomes pure and bright with the help of furnace, so too if a monk of such virtue eats alms food, that will be no obstacle for him. Stop here for a moment. This monk, he has virtue, he has concentration, and he has wisdom. So if he eats alms food, the choicest alms food, the best alms food, there is no obstacle for him in the sense that he is not attached to it. It doesn't bring up defilements for him. He abides pervading one quarter with the mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, around and everywhere. And to all as to himself, he abides pervading the all-encompassing world with the mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He abides pervading one quarter with the mind imbued with compassion, with the mind imbued with joy, with the mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth quarter. So above, below, around and everywhere. And to all as to himself, he abides pervading the all-encompassing world with the mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He understands thus, there is this, there is the inferior, there is the superior, and beyond there is an escape from this whole field of perception. When he knows and sees thus, his mind is liberated from the asava of sensual desire, from the asava of being, and from the asava of ignorance. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge it is liberated. He understands birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. Monks, this monk is called one bathed with the inner bathing. Now on that occasion, the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja was sitting not far from the Blessed One. Then he said to the Blessed One, but does Master Gotama go to the Bahuka river to bathe? And the Buddha said, why Brahmin go to the Bahuka river? What can the Bahuka river do? And he said, Master Gotama, the Bahuka river is held by many to give liberation. It is held by many to give merit, and many wash away their evil actions in the Bahuka river. Then the Blessed One addressed the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja in stanzas. Bahuka and Adhikaka, Gaya and Sundarika too, Bayaga and Sarasati, and the stream Bahumati. A fool may there forever bathe, yet will not purify dark deeds. What can the Sundarika bring to pass? What the Bayaga, what the Bahuka? They cannot purify an evildoer, a man who has done cruel and brutal deeds. One pure in heart has evermore the feast of spring, the holy day. One fair in act, one pure in heart, brings his virtue to perfection. It is here, Brahmin, that you should bathe, to make yourself a refuge for all beings. And if you speak no falsehood, nor work harm for living beings, nor take what is offered not, with faith and free from avarice, what need for you to go to Gaya? For any well will be your Gaya. When this was said, the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja said, Magnificent Master Gotama, magnificent Master Gotama. Master Gotama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Bhikkhu Sangha. I will receive the going forth under Master Gotama. I will receive the full admission. And the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja received the going forth under the Blessed One, and he received the full admission. And soon, not long after his full admission, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent and resolute, the Venerable Bharadvaja, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here and now entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. He directly knew birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. And the Venerable Bharadvaja became one of the Arahants. So you see here, the Buddha gives this simile about the cloth. This simile of the cloth. If you have a dirty cloth and you want to dye it to change its color, if the cloth already has some color, and has oil and has stains and all that, now you dip it in that dye, it cannot soak that dye because the cloth is dirty. But if your cloth is pure and white and clean, and when you soak it in the dye, it absorbs all that color you want it to. So that is a simile for our mind. And our mind has a lot of defilements, especially what is called the 5 hindrances. The Buddha says the 5 hindrances are the cause for our mind being blur. No wisdom, sensual desire, ill will or anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, and doubt. These 5 things. So when we listen to the Dhamma with a lot of these hindrances in us, we cannot absorb, just like the cloth cannot absorb the dye. The Dhamma doesn't go through. But if we meditate and our mind becomes concentrated, we get rid of these kilesas, these hindrances. And when you listen to the Dhamma, we can absorb easily. That's why this simile of the cloth is very appropriate. Then the Buddha says that a monk has a lot of imperfections, like just now we heard about blemish. And then after hearing the Dhamma, he abandons what the Buddha asks us to abandon. Buddha always asks us to abandon unwholesome states of mind. So when he abandons it, and then he realizes that he has improved, then he has faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Then when he has faith, then he is glad. And then when he is glad, then slowly delight arises. And then delight is followed by tranquility. And then a tranquil mind is a happy mind. And a happy mind easily becomes concentrated. Then here Buddha talks about pervading the entire world with loving kindness, compassion, joy and equanimity. These are the 4 Brahma Viharas that the Brahmins like to abide in. That's why the Buddha often talks about this. And then the Buddha said, since the Buddha implied that he is liberated, so the Brahmin thought, you must have gone to some river to get liberation. So the Buddha said, what can the river do for you? And then the Buddha said, it is by cultivating your mind that you become liberated. So the bathing is not the external bathing, it's the internal bathing that is important, not the external show. A lot of people like to make a show outside. What's important is inside. Then after that, after listening to this, the Brahmin asked to go forth. To many of us Chinese, very surprising. This Indian man listened to the Dhamma a bit already goes forth. Chinese man have to ask the wife for permission, have to ask the children for permission, have to ask the whole family for permission. Not for them. They are inspired immediately, can give up their family and go forth. And because of such faith, can become an Arahant later. Okay, going to the next sutta, number 8 now, hopefully you can finish. Wow, it's a long sutta. 20 minutes, let's see whether we can do it. Sallekha Sutta, effacement. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatta Pindika's park. Then when it was evening, the Venerable Mahachunda rose from meditation and went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to the Blessed One, he sat down at one side and said to him, Venerable Sir, various views arise in the world associated either with doctrines of herself or with doctrines about the world. Now does the abandoning and relinquishing of those views come about in a monk who is attending only to the beginning of his meditative training? And the Buddha said, Chunda, as to those various views that arise in the world associated either with doctrines of herself or with doctrines about the world, if the object in relation to which those views arise, which they underlie, and which they are exercised upon, is seen as it actually is with proper wisdom thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, then the abandoning and relinquishing of those views comes about. Stop here for a moment. So here this monk is asking the Buddha that there is various views in the world. Can they be abandoned by a monk at the early stage of his practice, meditation, etc.? Then the Buddha says, those views that arise in the world, if the basis for them, the basis for those views, the object in relation to which those views arise, if you can see that this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, then you can abandon those views. You see, when a person has a lot of views about the world, about himself and all that, it is because he has this, it is based on the view that I am or I exist. Once you have the concept or the notion I am or I exist, that means you have a self. And once you have a self, then you have a lot of views in relation of yourself with the world, views about yourself in relation to others and all that. So you have so many types of views. But you can see that this self that you assume exists is not I, it's not mine, it's not myself. Then only you can abandon those views. In other words, you can see no self, you can see the Dhamma. And the Buddha said, it is possible here, Chunda, that quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, some monk enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thought directed and sustained delight and pleasure born of seclusion. He might think, I am abiding in effacement, but it is not these attainments that are called effacement in the Blessed One's discipline. These are called pleasant abidings here and now in the Noble One's discipline. Stop here for a moment. This effacement means to get rid of something, face, to rub it off, to get rid of it. So when the Buddha says effacement, it means getting rid of unwholesome states. So the Buddha says, when a monk attains the first jhana, that is not yet called getting rid of unwholesome states. That is just pleasant abiding, a happy abiding, happy hour. It is possible here that with the stilling of thought directed and sustained, some monk enters upon and abides in the second jhana, which has self-confidence and singleness of mind, without thought directed and sustained, with delight and pleasure born of concentration. He might think, I am abiding in effacement, but these are called pleasant abidings here and now in the Noble One's discipline. Similarly, for the third jhana, the Buddha says that is not abiding in effacement, but abiding in pleasant abidings. And then with the fourth jhana also, the Buddha says that is not effacement. In the Noble One's discipline, they are called pleasant abidings. It is possible here that with the complete surmounting of perceptions of form, with the disappearance of perceptions of sensory impact, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, aware that space is infinite, some monk enters upon and abides in the base of infinite space. He might think, thus, I am abiding in effacement, but it is not these attainments that are called effacement in the Noble One's discipline. These are called peaceful abidings in the Noble One's discipline. So here you see even the Arupa jhana, the first Arupa jhana, it is such a peaceful state. The Buddha says that is still not abiding in effacement. That is only peaceful abiding. And then similarly for the second Arupa jhana, base of consciousness, the base of infinite space, the Buddha also says that is abiding in effacement. And then the third one, the base of infinite consciousness, that also is not abiding in effacement, but only peaceful abiding. And then even the highest Arupa jhana, the base of the base of Base of nothingness also is not. Base of nothingness, then base of neither perception or non-perception. All the arupa jhanas, the Buddha says, are not called effacement. They are only peaceful abidings. Now Chunda, here effacement should be practiced by you. Others will be cruel. We shall not be cruel here. Effacement should be practiced here. Others will kill living beings. We shall abstain from killing living beings. Effacement should be practiced here. Others will take what is not given. We shall abstain from taking what is not given. Others will be uncelibate. We will be celibate here. Others will speak falsehood. We will abstain from false speech. Others will speak maliciously. We shall abstain from malicious speech. Others will speak harshly. We shall abstain from harsh speech. Others will gossip. We shall abstain from gossip. Others will be covetous. We shall be uncovetous. Others will have ill will. We shall be without ill will. Others will be of wrong view. We shall be of right view. Others will be of wrong intention or wrong thoughts. We shall be of right intention. Others will be of wrong speech. We shall be of right speech. Others will be of wrong actions. We will be of right actions. Others will be of wrong livelihood. We shall be of right livelihood. Others will be of wrong effort. We shall be of right effort. Others will be of wrong recollection. We shall be of right recollection. Others will be of wrong concentration. We shall be of right concentration. What we just went through was 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Others will be of wrong knowledge. We shall be of right knowledge. Others will be of wrong deliverance. We shall be of right deliverance or liberation. Others will be overcome by sloth and torpor. We shall be free from sloth and torpor. Others will be restless. We shall not be restless. Others will be doubters. We shall go beyond doubt. Others will be angry. We shall not be angry. Others will be revengeful. We shall not be revengeful. Others will be contemptuous. We shall not be contemptuous. Others will be domineering. We shall not be domineering. Others will be envious. We shall not be envious. Others will be avaricious. We shall not be avaricious. Others will be fraudulent. We shall not be fraudulent. Others will be deceitful. We shall not be deceitful. Others will be obstinate. We shall not be obstinate. Others will be arrogant. We shall not be arrogant. Others will be difficult to admonish, to advise, to teach. We shall be easy to admonish. Others will have bad friends. We shall have good friends. Others will be negligent. We shall be diligent. Others will be faithless. We shall have faith. Others will be shameless. We shall be shameful. Others who have no fear of wrongdoing. We shall be afraid of wrongdoing. Others will be of little learning. We shall be of great learning. Great learning means knows the Buddha's Dhamma, knows the Buddha's Suttas. Others will be lazy. We shall be energetic. Others will be unmindful. We shall be established in mindfulness. Here mindfulness probably refers to recollection, sati. Others will lack wisdom. We shall possess wisdom. Others will adhere to their own views and hold on to them tenaciously. We shall not adhere to our own views. So here the Buddha says effacement means getting rid of unwholesome states. It is not some meditative attainment. But meditative attainment helps very much. If you have meditative attainments, your mind is clear and strong, then you can see where are your faults, and you can have the strength of mind to do what should be done or not to do what should not be done. If you don't have a good meditation practice, it's harder. But anyway, you look from here that effacement in the Buddha's teachings refers to getting rid of all unwholesome states of mind and practicing wholesome states of mind. The Buddha continues, Chunda, I say that even the inclination of mind towards wholesome states is of great benefit. So what should be said of bodily and verbal acts conforming to such a state of mind? So here the Buddha says, even thinking that you want to have wholesome states is beneficial already. And if you can act through your body and speech in a wholesome way, that is even more beneficial. Therefore, Chunda, mind should be inclined thus. Others will be cruel. We shall not be cruel. Mind should be inclined thus. Others will kill. We shall abstain from killing, etc., etc. Or the whole list like before. Chunda, suppose there were an uneven path and another even path by which to avoid, and suppose there were an uneven ford and another even ford by which to avoid. So too, a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty by which to avoid it. One given to killing living beings has abstention from killing living beings by which to avoid it. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, if a person has been practicing cruelty, he can change and practice non-cruelty to avoid cruelty. If he has been used to killing living beings, then he can practice non-killing as an alternative, and that will avoid killing. One given to taking what is not given has abstention from taking what is not given by wish to avoid it. One given to uncelibacy has celibacy by wish to avoid it. One given to false speech has abstention from false speech by wish to avoid it. One given to malicious speech has abstention from malicious speech from wish to avoid it. Malicious speech is speech motivated by anger. One given to harsh speech has abstention from harsh speech by wish to avoid it. One given to gossip has abstention from gossip by wish to avoid it. Similarly, for covetousness, ill will, wrong view, wrong thoughts, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong recollection, wrong concentration, all this, you have to practice the opposite to avoid all this. Similarly for all the others. Chunda, just as all unwholesome states lead downwards and all wholesome states lead upwards, so too a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty to lead him upwards. One given to killing has abstention from killing to lead him upwards. One given to taking what is not given, stealing, has abstention from taking what is not given to lead him upwards, etc. Similarly for all the other things that we went through just now, 44 of them. Chunda, that one who is himself sinking in the mud should pull out another who is sinking in the mud is impossible. That one who is not himself sinking in the mud should pull out another who is sinking in the mud is possible. That one who is himself untamed, undisciplined, with defilements unextinguished, should tame another, discipline him, and help extinguish his defilements is impossible. That one who is himself tamed, disciplined, with defilements extinguished, should tame another, discipline him, and help extinguish his defilements is possible. So too, a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty by which to extinguish it. One given to killing living beings has abstention from killing living beings by which to extinguish it. One given to taking what is not given has abstention from taking what is not given by which to extinguish it, etc. And similarly for all the other things here. So here you notice here the Buddha says, if a person is in the mud, he cannot help another person out of the mud. We have to get out of the mud before we can help another out of the mud. This is contrary to the Mahayana teaching of always trying to help others. So the Buddha says, you have to help yourself first before you think of helping others. Otherwise you are not in a position to help others. So Chunda, the way of effacement has been taught by me. The way of inclining the mind has been taught by me. The way of avoidance has been taught by me. The way leading upwards has been taught by me. And the way of extinguishing has been taught by me. What should be done for his disciples out of compassion by a teacher who seeks their welfare and has compassion for them, that I have done for you, Chunda. There are these roots of trees, these empty huts. Meditate, Chunda, do not delay, or else you will regret it later. This is our instruction to you. That is what the Blessed One said. The Venerable Mahachunda was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. I look at these words of the Buddha very carefully. The Buddha says, there are these roots of trees, these empty huts. Meditate, do not delay, or you will regret it later. A lot of people, we always think we have time. You always think you have time. Then when your time is used up, then only you regret, I didn't have time. I've seen a few people come to the monastery, they also like that. They thought they had time. A few years ago, about 4 years ago, there was one, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, his name was Wong. He came here one and only once to keep the 8 precepts. He stayed, I think, 2 weeks. And at that time, there were quite a number of people here, so he enjoyed staying here because there was a good company to joke with and all that. And he was a good cook, so everybody enjoyed his company because he was a good cook. But he didn't take this retreat here seriously. And So after 2 weeks, he left, and didn't come back. He didn't come back for, I think, 4 years. And I heard during these 4 years that he used to go mountain climbing with his friends. Go to Gunung Asahan, Gunung this and Gunung that. He's to keep fit. And after 4 years, he came back to the monastery. When I saw him, I asked him, "What's wrong with you, Wong?" Because his face was dark like an Indian, like his wife. His wife happened to be an Indian. So I asked him, "What's wrong with you?" Definitely something was wrong with him. His face was so dark. He said, "I have cancer, terminal cancer." And then he came all the way back to tell me that his greatest regret is never came back to the monastery. He said, "I didn't come back." He regretted very much. So after that he went back. And I think about 2 weeks later he passed away. So you see, when you have time, you think. When you don't have time, you think you have time. Nobody has extra time. Even if you make use of all the time that you have left now, it's still not enough. By the time you pass away, you regret, I didn't start earlier. It's always like that. Another man, I give you an example, another man, I think about 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, his good friend came here and stayed for a few days and went back. I was quite happy. And then this man, his wife also came here because the hometown happened to be nearby. So the wife came here and stayed for 3 days. Then went back also very inspired and told him very nice and all that. So he decided that he wants to come. So he came, supposed to stay 3 days, After 1 day he ran away. Found it a bit tough. 2 months later, I was surprised to hear he suddenly died. 2 months later. That man was only about 50 years old, where he expected that he would die. So, you see. A lot of people like that never expect that death will come so suddenly. So never think you have time. I always say, even you practice very hard now, you still don't have. One day when you die, you still think you don't have enough time. So okay, we stop here. Yeah, and even the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, I'm echoing what the Buddha said now. Meditate, Chunda, do not delay or else you will regret it later. Anything to comment or discuss?
We have discussion on Stupa. I didn't know what is the significance of the Stupa.
The Stupa was mentioned by the Buddha. The Buddha said there are 4 types of persons after they pass away and their remains are cremated. 4 types of persons are worthy to have their remains placed inside a stupa and venerated. One is a Sammasambuddha, another one is a Pacceka Buddha, third one is an Arya, that means a 4th fruit or 3rd fruit or 2nd fruit or 1st fruit, Arya. So these are the 3 types of Arya. And then the 4th person is a universal monarch, a king who is so good that the whole world wants him to be the ruler. So he's a very virtuous person. So only these 4 types of persons are worthy of having their remains. The remains are called sarira. In Chinese we call 舍利者. 舍利者is nothing special, it's just bones that have been cremated, the remains, ashes and the bones, that is 舍利者. It's not some nice looking bright crystal or something like that. No, this is a Chinese idea only.
They want to have a Stupa to be the center of energy or focus this energy.
Yeah, but you see nowadays a lot of things that are practiced in the name of Buddhism is just tradition, customs and all that. Recently I attended official opening of a stupa, and then the senior monk says that a monastery is not a monastery without a stupa. That's only his later opinion. It's not the Buddha's opinion. Just like some people say, how can Vihara Buddha Gautama have no Buddha statue? How can you have a temple without a Buddha statue? And I say, during the Buddha's time, all the monasteries had no statue. We are trying to practice original Buddhism, true Buddhism, not all that tradition handed down. Okay, shall we end here?